All right. So tonight we are going to work on something that was that I've been meaning to kind of check out for a while, and that is sign in with Apple. And sign in with Apple is a new kind of mechanism that Apple gives for kind of making user sign in and registration really simple across Apple devices, across browsers, in kind of a secure and private way. And I'm going to go ahead and I've done a little bit of work on the front end, and I have a kind of a skeleton implementation here that essentially shows the button, sign in with Apple button, and then basically grabs the results from this and then sends it up to the server. And now what I need to do is I need to kind of implement the server-side verification part of the process. So if you take a look, Apple's documentation is actually pretty good here with this. And you'll see here in the app, we do like this sign-in request with sign in with Apple. It basically goes, requests some user information, and then what you need to do is when you get the token and the information back, you have to save it right away because you only get that information once. So for example, I'm not actually asking for any real details here in my request things, but in your requested scopes, you can ask for email, full name, things like that. And if you ask for those things, you have to, when you get them back in the success block, you actually have to save them right away because you don't get them again. But those things aren't really that important. But what's most important is basically the verification of the token. So once you get the identity token from the sign in with Apple API, you then have to actually validate that that token that's been given to you hasn't been tampered with or isn't bad. So if you kind of see here, right, the app has to send the token authorization and the authorization code, and then we'll validate this again. There's effectively, as I understand it, from what I can read, there's kind of two ways to do this. One takes a little more effort, and that's typically if you're doing a web based sign-in. If you're doing a kind of an API-based sign-in through an app and an API, things are a little different, as I understand. But if someone wants to correct me on that, that would be totally fine. So I've already gone through the basics of this. I've set up my, you have to set up a certificate in your Apple account or a token, and kind of just bind that token to your the whatever bundle ID that you want. And so now what we need to do is verify the user, or verify the token. And so we've already submitted the identity token and the authorization code to the app server. And we don't need to retrieve the user's identity information from the Apple ID servers because from a privacy perspective, I don't really care. I'm not going to ask for all that stuff. So, and again, right, like web apps must attain the identity token from the server by validating the authorization code, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a web app, so as I understand it, I don't have to do that. But I do need to verify that the token that I've gotten from the sign in with Apple process is legit. And so in order to do that, we need to talk to this server that Apple has. And actually, this isn't it. This is the token server. I needed the keys server. Let's see if I can find it here. Generate. Valid token. So this is for a web app. What I need to do fetch apples. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So we get a token, right? And so if we take a look, I've sort of started to sketch this out, right? But basically we're going to have, you know, some sort of this little service. It takes in our audience and our issuer. This is basically what I set up kind of offline. But basically you get these two values when you set up your sign in with Apple key. And we need to verify the token that we get. Now this algorithm, this stuff isn't correct. We need to kind of fill this in. I just kind of scaffolded this out. But what we need to do is we need to take that token that we get from Apple and we need to validate it against Apple's public keys. And if it validates and it has the right audience and the right issuer, then we know that it's legit. And so this endpoint is actually a what's called a JWK server, and this is a something called JSON Web Key Sets, and it's basically a specification for systems to say these are the valid keys for a kind of a given domain. And so Apple has this public key for verifying the signature, and it basically returns a set of keys, right? And then we can basically validate that. So we're going to go ahead and add this in. So we are using the auth0 JWT library, the Java library here. Let's just go ahead and make sure we pulled that in. So we're using the Java JWT library as here. The other thing that we're using is the JWK SRSA library. So this one is actually kind of the more important one. What this library does is this allows us to basically talk to Apple's key server and kind of grab this stuff automatically. It will take care of like caching, so it won't call a key server every time we need to validate a token. And so it kind of takes care of like talking to the Apple token server, and then it basically gives us a key store provider that we can then set on our kind of verifier. And that way we can verify the token. So what we need to do next is we need to actually kind of create one of these with this URL. So I'm going to go ahead and create an internal class called Apple Key Provider. And this is going to be an RSA key provider. I actually use internal quite often. This class isn't really a concern really outside of this file or anything like that. So this is kind of something I do fairly often. I do need to implement members. So this is essentially an interface. And we're not going to fill in all of these methods, I don't think, but we're going to fill in get public key by ID, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But we need to, in order to do that, we need a provider. Okay, so we are going to create a new provider. And this is a JWK provider. Actually, we're going to do the builder. And the builder takes in a URL. And that URL is this one right here. So we're going to pass this URL to the builder. And then, let's see, we want it cached so that every time we verify a token, it doesn't necessarily call the Apple servers. We don't need to go crazy with that. So we can cache the keys. So this builder, I think, has a cached, yeah. So let's go ahead and say, we're going to say the cache size is 10, and we are going to cache this for 10 minutes, let's say. And then we can go ahead and build. Okay, so now we have this provider that's going to call this Apple Keys endpoint every 10 minutes and cache up to 10 keys that it gets. And so part of the reason Apple does this is because if there ever is a key that's compromised, Apple can just add a new one through its set of keys, and everything will continue to work. So this allows them to do essentially rotate keys, and this will continue to work. Now, the most important thing, though, is that if we look at this, right, they are giving us our JW key set. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Basically, these are Apple's public key, right? So we're not going to get the private keys. Obviously, they wouldn't give those, but we are going to get the public key. And so when we get the token, there's going to be a key ID in it. So it's going to say, hey, from the token from Apple is going to have a bunch of information in it. And it's also going to say, hey, this is the key that you should be kind of trying to verify things with. So we need to ask the provider for that key. And so we're going to say provider.getKeyID. And then we're going to ask it for the public key. And I think we're probably going to have to, yeah, it's just public key. So we're going to have to do RSA public key like this. And we should be good because there is no just generic, yeah. Provider. Yeah, this should be fine. Yeah. Okay. So now that we have a key provider, right? So we're talking with Apple servers, we're getting their keys. We can now go ahead and kind of add this to our service that does the verification. So whenever you do verification with the Auth0 JWT library, basically what you need is you either need an algorithm with a secret, or you need a set of keys. And then basically you give that key provider to the algorithm, and then you create your verifier, or your thing that mints your tokens. So what do we need here? We need a couple of things. We need an instance of our key validator, key provider, and this is going to be Apple key provider. And I think we should be good there. So we are going to require the key provider. Oh, the algorithm. Yeah, so the algorithm is going to be, I think it's RSA 256, right? Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at what this endpoint looks like. Yeah, so you'll see here it has these keys, it has a key ID, and the type is RSA. Yeah, so we should be good there. Okay, so now we can pass this in. We get an algorithm. And we don't just want to verify the algorithm, we also want to verify that the token that we got is from the right audience and issuer, right? So we're going to say with audience, and with issuer. So what are audience and issuer? So they, you can use these values. They are a part of typical standard JWT tokens. And you can use them for specifying different environments. You can use them to specify like where a token came from. So they're always good, right? You always want to kind of validate as much as you can within the token. So we have a verifier, and then basically we build it. And so then what we can do is we can just call verify, on the token, and we should be good. So that should really do it. Pretty straightforward. The web, as I said, the web one is a little more difficult, but this is pretty simple. And so if you need to kind of implement sign in with Apple and you're using kind of an app based, you've got an app-based project, from a Java perspective, it's pretty easy to get up and running with these two libraries. And I think that's really about all I wanted to kind of tackle for tonight. So we get the token from sign in with Apple, we pass that up, and then basically we're gonna verify that token, and we should be all set. So let's go ahead and see if we can try this out. We're probably gonna have to, let's see, we're probably gonna have to kind of clear some stuff out. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's save nothing here. This was my test user that I was messing around with. So let's go ahead and check this out. There we go. So we can go ahead and run this, and we can take a look at it end to end, take a look at what the token looks like, and that'll kind of give people a better look at what's going on here. Actually, I'm going to do it on my phone because it doesn't always work in the simulator, which is quite annoying. But it will work on our phones here. So let's go ahead and run this. And I'll show you what this kind of looks like on the simulator as well here in a second. need to check that the token isn't empty either. So how do I want to do this? If the token, oh, it's because it's got to be, there we go. Oh, we got to send something in. I got to clean up my test code. Oh. And the token isn't empty. Bool must be unwrapped. That's what it's doing. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I get this screwed up in Swift all the time because Kotlin is different. All right, so yeah, so as long as the token isn't null and the token isn't empty, we can go ahead and do this. So let's run this on the phone, and we'll run this on the simulator so you can see what this looks like. All right, so let's go ahead and run this on the iPhone 11 as well. So to see if I go to account, you'll see this sign in with Apple button because there's no token. I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna switch the debugger to my phone because you'll see that when I hit this button, I'll see a bunch of output. So I'm basically using sign in with Apple. I'm doing Face ID, and you'll see, hey, we got a bunch of stuff, right? And a bunch of stuff was sent up to the server, and we can go ahead and kind of take a look at what happened. So first of all, there was an error. Yep, no credentials found. That's not surprising. All right, so validating token. So it sent up a token that looks like this. And let's go ahead and take a look at what that token looks like. So we can go to the jwt.io. You can paste this token in. So you'll see this is the issuer. So the issuer is Apple, essentially. The audience, this is kind of a bundle ID that I sent, or that I set. Subject is the user. Hash, email, things like that, right? So now, right, we take that, we validate it, we verify it, and we got returned a token, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's fine. GraphQL result, data object. Yeah, so now this token is the actual token from the server. So we don't return the token from, we don't use the token from Apple. We say, okay, this is a valid token. We now know who this person is or this user is. And then we return a new token. And that new token, again, right, this is now, you know, we use the same audience. The subject is the same, but then the issuer is different, right? So this is my issuer, and this is when it expires. So this is a different token from the server. And now that I have this token, this will now start to functionally work. So it will actually now allow me to communicate securely with my API, identify uniquely who this person is, and things will work as expected. So, so there it is, end to end. A little easier than I thought, But I really like this. You know, I don't have a bunch of sensitive personal information. I don't have to deal with passwords, all that kind of stuff. All that, you know, this process is much easier, right? Apple deals with all of the management of the user stuff. They send me a token that kind of uniquely identifies a user. It doesn't have any private information. And then I can go ahead and say, hey, Apple, please tell me if this token is valid. And if they do, then I can just create my own token, return it, and you know, I know who that user is, and it's all nice and secure from there with JWT tokens. So I think that's about it for the stream. Pretty quick and simple, and we'll see you in the next stream.